Is you ready to ride? Right now, can you feel it? Let's go, undefeated. Turn up and repeat it. Over and over and over and over again. Right now, can you feel it? Let's go, undefeated. Turn up and repeat it. Over and over and over and over again.
Y'all already know what's going on. We are back with another episode of the Attitude Era podcast. This is one of, let me not even say one of our. This is going to be the episode of the Attitude Era podcast.
The official Attitude Era podcast.
There you go. Before we get started, shout out to all the sponsors. First of all, shout out to HDMI Productions. Make sure you follow High Def, HDMI the plug on Instagram for all videos, blog, podcasting, whatever y'all may need. Chalkline, order official WWE jackets, jerseys, everything you can think of. Go get that from them. Shout out to my guy, Mr. Throwback, East 9th Street in New York, vintage everything, Wrestling Universe, my guy Ryan over there, and flipperbag.oe.com. Make sure y'all go there to get y'all official merch. With all that being said, though, we have a legend in the building right now.
Legend.
Hall of Fame.
A WWE Hall of Famer. Devon Dudley, man.
Yeah.
What's going on, man? Thank you, guys.
Thank
you, my man.
Yeah, we here, man. We here.
Appreciate you even taking your time out to do this interview with us.
Appreciate you.
This is legendary right now, especially for the podcast being the Attitude Era podcast.
Wait. But I want to ask you a question real quick.
Sure.
Flex is
Have
automatically
you
here.
ever been on Attitude Era podcast before?
No, I've never been on.
So this is your first
time.
So this is the official
time that Devon has been on the podcast.
Attitude Era podcast. Can
Attitude
you look
Era.
in the camera and say this is the official Attitude Era podcast?
This is the official Attitude podcast.
There you go.
Flex is here.
There you go. We
We
here.
available.
I just wanted to
We
make sure that
available.
we got that clear.
No,
that this is the official.
That's a fact. That
All
had
right.
to be cleared up.
With that being said, just what we've been doing with the podcast is just stemming from, because I'm not so much of a big fan of wrestling now, but at that time, every Monday, every Thursday, you know, because the original SmackDown people, they might have came on when it was Friday, but I'm talking UPN on Thursday. I was glued to my screen, and I feel like just that time is so historical. That's like the 90s of hip-hop. Even though Attitude Era stemmed over to the 2000s, those are just prominent times in the culture that just need to be highlighted on, and you were a big part of that. So my first question to you is, because you didn't start at the beginning of the Attitude Era podcast, when you were just watching it from when you were in ECW, what did you think about it? And did you think you'll ever be a part of the Attitude Era?
No, because at the time when it first started, we didn't really know what the Attitude Era was going to become. I mean, we all know now after it's all been said and done. But back then, I mean, you had the likes of Steve Austin starting. You had The Rock coming up. You know, Taker was always there, but he started a new persona. Mick Foley came in. So all of these stars, we knew, you know, that it was bound to be something. We just didn't know what it was going to be. And we were already starting to make some noise in ECW. So at that point, we weren't thinking about WWE or the Attitude Era at that time. We were thinking how ECW could be the third largest company in the business. We weren't trying to beat WWE or beat WCW. We just wanted to be in comparison to them and not be some local indie promotion that was just hanging on by a thread. We wanted to be the real deal, and that's what we did. Not only that, but, you know, you can't deny that the Attitude Era was influenced by ECW.
And that was my next question I was going to get into, because aside from you and Bubba Ray, Mankind coming over when he's doing these, because when Mankind comes over, it's a Buried Alive match. It's a Boiler Room match. Then it's a Hell in a Cell match. These are all things that added to the Attitude Era, and that stemmed from Mankind being with ECW. So my next question was,
It's Cactus Jack.
how much do you feel? Yeah, it's Cactus Jack. How much do you feel? And this is a two-part question. Not only how much do you feel, but what was like backstage? Because we know at one point before the Attitude Era started, WWF at the time was kind of like the commercial thing. So was there like apprehensiveness on your side? Like, are we going to come over there? Are they going to water down the Dudley Boyz? Was that a conversation of, when we get here, can we do what it is we like to do.
Well, I think anybody that comes in from somewhere else back then was always under the impression that it might be watered down, their character, their persona, and anything that they had done in other places. Was it a fear? Absolutely. Bubba first came, we had already been done with the stuttering, me smacking Bubba in the back of the head. And the minute we came into WWE, that was the first thing Vince wanted us to do. He found that to be entertaining. He didn't want the Dudleys of the present at that time. He wanted the old school Dudleys with the Bubba stuttering and me smacking him in the back of the head. Bubba hated it. He didn't want to go back to that. Because after you go from that to being a hardcore Dudleys in ECW, it's hard to go back to the babyface stuttering, Bubba Ray Dudley. He didn't like it. He hated it. And I remember the first time we got the opportunity to work with the Hardys in the tables match. That was what really set everything for us at Madison Square Garden. And, it was a great time during that time. No one had really seen it on that level. You got to understand, ECW was seen by a lot of people, but their market was very small compared to the huge market that the WWF had. And at that point in time, if you think about it, only 1%, maybe 2% of the WWE fans knew who we were. It wasn't until we became a name in WWF is when they decided they knew who we were. But it was also at that point when that tables match came, we showed the company the Dudley Boyz can do more than stuttering and me smacking Bubba in the back of the head.
Absolutely. You got a question for me?
Yeah, well, actually, you had brought up the tables match. I wanted to know how that formed, how that became your signature. Was it something natural or was it someone had an idea like, hey, you guys can bring tables?
No, it was Vince's idea to put Terry Reynolds at first to a table. We had the table match with the Hardys at Madison Square Garden. I believe it was in 2000. And then at Monday Night Raw, he goes, "You guys we're gonna make you heels, and we're gonna put Terry through a table in Philadelphia." And I remember me and Bubba looked at him and goes, "Vince, that's not gonna work." "Why is that?" "Well, Vince, society is sick right now, and number one, you're doing it in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is where the Dudley Boyz were made, born, and raised. And to put a woman through a table, they're not going to boo, they're going to cheer." So, and he was like, "Oh, nonsense, don't worry, it'll work." So when it didn't work and all those people started cheering, it was like, what can I do? How can we prove the Dudleys wrong? "I got it. We'll put an 80-year-old woman through a table." And again, we told them that's even worse. That's even worse. That's going to make us instant baby faces because society at that time was sick. We knew it because of Austin. Austin came in as a foul-mouthed, beer-drinking, redneck that put up the middle finger and was against authority. So when society, gravitated to Austin, we kind of saw the writing on the wall that if we were to even take Mae Young and put it through a table, there was not a chance in hell that people were going to boo. And I think if you go back and look at the tape, when we took out Mark Henry, he's down, and because we never told the commentators what we were going to do. And Jerry,
and that was sick. Mark Henry being with me.
Right,
yeah, exactly. So there you go.
That was a whole other thing.
Yeah. So and then what also happened was that day, here it is. We got rid of Mark Henry, and then I remember watching it back. The minute I took Mae Young and I brought her over to Bubba, Jerry the King Lawler goes, "They're not going to do what I think they're going to do. There's no way. Somebody's going to come." And at that point, when I read it, I was like, that's when I knew Jerry the King Lawler didn't know what we were going to do. Jerry the King Lawler and JR had no idea we were putting Mae Young through a table. And so I remember the minute I got her up in midair, the fans, if you go back and watch, they stood up and started looking towards the ramp. They thought somebody was coming down to save her. And when I put her on Bubba's shoulders and Bubba stood up, and that crowd, it just went from it was like a God earthly noise, like a sound. And next thing you know, he went through and that place exploded. They lost their mind. And that's when I realized that society was really sick. We took an 80-year-old woman who could be somebody's grandmother and put her through a table and you cheer. Who does that?
I gotta ask a question because you brought it. I gotta ask. So I've always wanted to ask this question. So you mentioned how the idea of putting Terry came about. That set it off as the first woman being put through a table from you guys, in WWF. Okay. Then you talk about Mae Young. I wanted to know, what was the craziest power bomb of a woman through a table for you, and why? I was just curious because I was just wondering how do you guys live putting these women through the tables?
Well,
and it was such a fire thing to do, but I'm still curious as a kid seeing all of this.
I think the craziest one was Mae Young again, putting her through the table from the stage to the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, she was one. I think Bubba liked to say it best. Mae Young was the toughest man we had ever been in a ring with. I mean, she was tough. She came in the back. This was after the first time we wrestled her and Moolah. And we saw what Jeff Jarrett used to do with them when he wrestled with them. Jeff would beat the hell out of them. But we were trying to be very soft with them. We were trying to take care of them, so to speak, and we were giving them the respect. And at the end of the match, Mae Young called us both over here, told Bubba, "Come here, hot shot." Shook his hand and said, next time you're in the ring with us, you treat us like one of the boys. And she slapped Bubba. And I was just like, "Gotcha." Yep. I stepped back. I said, "Gotcha. We'll hit you. Not a problem. You don't have to smack me. I'm good."
Insane.
Yeah, so Mae Young was probably the toughest and it was the most unusual female to ever put through a table. I mean, because again, it's an 80-year-old woman. You're on top of the SmackDown stage, and the table's below. You take her and you go through it. Now, most women 80 years old plus are worried about their hips just falling. You're taking this woman and diving off of a stage through a table, and that's not good. And then she came to us after that was over. She goes, "I want to talk to Vince and ask Vince if we can do a steel cage match where you bring me onto the top and put us through a table off the cage."
What?
I just remember looking at Bubba going, "You're doing that one. I ain't doing that one. Because if something happens, they're going to blame the black guy. I ain't doing that one."
So my next two things I was going to say is, one, we were, watching it as kids, seeing you put all them women through the table. Before this interview, we go back and watch it, and we see that Terry was the only one that was kind of spared. Because when Bubba's throwing her to the table, he throws himself down, and she kind of
protected it. Yeah.
But then everybody after that,
Straight through.
and the worst one didn't even come from y'all. The worst one came from the Goodfather.
Victoria.
It looked like he broke her in half.
I remember APA waiting for them at the end of the match, waiting for Godfather to come to the rope. He says, "What did she do to you?" He was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Did she owe you money?" He was like, "Good God, how much hatred did you have for that woman?" I mean, he literally killed her. But when Bubba did it to Terry, remember, it was the first time he had ever done that.
Yeah.
So it was like trial and error. So him putting it through, now he watched it over and over again, and that's when he decided, he was like, "I'm going to let them go through a little bit more." And that's what he did. And that's why everybody else from that point on, you saw them going through. I think Trish Stratus was probably the first victim of really going through hard.
Yeah.
And she was a trooper. She really was a trooper. I love Trish Stratus to death, even to this day. We talk about that.
I thought the Lita one was kind of mean too.
yeah.
Lita
Well,
took
I
it.
was
Rest in
gonna
peace,
ask.
China. She
Yeah, she
Yeah,
gave
word.
it.
she
Yeah.
handed her
I was
off.
going to ask, is there one that sticks in your memory? Like, we really that power bomb was crazy.
I think it would have to be Trish. I mean, if you see the velocity impact of her going through that table, good God, there was no protection whatsoever. None.
My next question for you is, out of all the WrestleManias that you and Bubba Ray was on, which one is the most special to you?
WrestleMania 17.
Okay.
The one in Houston where we had the TLC match. And the great thing about that is a lot of guys like to mimic what we did in that TLC match, tables, ladders, and chairs. But what people don't realize is that we didn't just pick up a chair and hit people with it. We didn't just put them through a table or pick up a ladder and hit people. There was a story behind each and everything we did. So we just didn't go in there and use tables, ladders, and chairs. Every time we used one of those things, it meant something. We had to make sure that there was a story behind it. In other words, if we're going to pick up a table and put somebody through it, it has to be at the right time. You just can't get a table and put them through it. If we're going to use a chair, you have to use a chair at the right time, and the ladder as well. But that was the difference. We told a great story at WrestleMania 17, and what made it even better is that we added 3 components to it: Lita, Rhino, and Spike. So think about it. You have a regular wrestling match. Now you're using gimmicks, tables, ladders, and chairs, and you're adding 3 other people to the mix. And now you're worried about yourself because those tables are unpredictable.
Rhino was calling me.
Those tables are unpredictable. Not to mention, the ladders, they hurt. I mean, I don't care what nobody said. The ladders hurt because that's steel hitting your body, so that hurts. And the chairs, if you ain't swinging them right, you're gonna get busted open. You're done.
Yeah, y'all was wrestling in the era of the headshots. For real.
Yeah. I think I got some PTSD. No question.
Well, you had mentioned tables. I had a question because I tend to watch some New Japan stuff like that every now and then. Tables are vastly different. Which tables do you prefer? The Japanese tables or
Here.
Right, and why?
Because the tables in Japan are a lot stiffer.
Oh,
God, they hurt. Oh God.
Wait, brother, you had a question about
Yeah, I
tables.
was just about to say that.
You always wanted to ask him.
You
man.
always want to
Oh,
be.
look,
yeah.
you getting
You
nervous
guys
now?
remind- Okay,
See?
no,
Yeah,
not
I
at
got
all.
nervous
I'm
on
glad
that.
you guys remind. No, it's because I have a lot of questions.
We call
for you.
it
But when I've wanted to ask you this since I was like 8 or 9, specifically at WrestleMania 17. Since we're on that topic, there were some matches where it would be get the tables, and there were tables surrounding the entire ring, and then you would run outside and you would look under the ring apron for something. But then you just put it down and get the table. What were you looking for when you were
I was actually looking for another table.
I've heard this better tables than the ones.
Yeah, and what happened was the tables that we had on the outside, we had to be very careful because we were using those on the outside later on in the match. So I was basically looking underneath the table, underneath the ring to go get a table. And a lot of times the tables were on the other side. So now I'm like, oh, shit. So now I got to go over there, get the table that we were going to use, and then tell the referee, listen, get another table over there quick. I had to use the one we were going to use. And so by the time the spot came up to where we had to use the table, it was there.
I can't even express to you how long I've been wondering that.
Let's start from the beginning because your name wasn't always Devon Dudley.
Right.
Originally, it was A-Train. Right? So how do we start from? How do you get the name A-Train, and then how do you go to Devon Dudley? Because I know it's inspired by the Samuel L. Jackson Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
But just walk us through A-Train to the steps
Well,
of Devon
I was
Dudley.
at Johnny Rogers School in Gleason's, downtown Brooklyn, and there was a guy at the school named A-Train, and a lot of guys said that I reminded them of him. And this one guy named Larry Briscoe, not Larry Zabisco, but this guy Larry Briscoe, who wrestled just like the guys back in the 70s, he kept going A-Train, A-Train. So I asked Johnny, I said, why the hell does he keep saying A-Train? And he goes, well, you remind him of a guy that used to be here named A-Train. So from that point on, when I did my first wrestling match, I had no idea what I was going to call myself. And Johnny says, why don't you call yourself A-Train? I'm like, A-Train it is. And then ECW, I meet with Paul Heyman at the ECW studio. And as we're talking, he's trying to get to know me. He's trying to fill me out. I told him, I said, well, what do you want to call me? He goes, let's use your name. I was like, Devon? He goes, no, Devon. And we'll spell it D-V-O-N. And the first thing he asked me, he goes, what do you like? What's your inspiration? I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, give me a movie. What's your favorite movie? I said, Rocky III. He's like, who's your favorite? Sylvester Rocky? I said, no, Mr. T. And he asked me, he goes, you like Mr. T? I said, I love Mr. T. I said, I was imitating Mr. T ever since the movie came out in '82. I was 10 years old. And he goes, can you do Mr. T? I said, yeah. So the one where when Mr. T approached Sylvester Stallone and called out his wife and everything, that was what I did for Paul. And Paul goes, oh my God. He goes, that's perfect. He goes, he goes, what's your background? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I told him about my parents. My parents are reverends. My mother's a reverend, and my father is a bishop. And I was a church kid. I was a pastor's kid. I was a PK. So I was in Sunday school. You name it. I was in all of that. And he said, "Can you quote scriptures from the Bible?" I said, "Absolutely. Give me a topic." And he asked me. He gave me a topic, and he says, "Okay, quote it." So I gave it to him, and he was like, "You ever see Pulp Fiction?" At the time, I was like, "No, I remember it being in the movies, but I never saw it." And he says, "Well, it's out. I want you to go get it." He goes, "It's in the movie theater. Go to Blockbuster." Now this is how old it is. He's like, go to Blockbuster, and it just got into Blockbuster. He was like, "Go to Blockbuster, and I want you to study a character called Jules, which is Samuel L. Jackson." He's like, "I think that's going to be you." And I was like, "Okay," and I did it. Called him back. I said, "I love it." I was like, what do you want me to do? He goes, well, we're going to use the testify and we're going to use the commandments. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, but thou shalt not fuck with the Dudleys. And that's what we were able to do in ECW. By the time I got to WWE, it was thou shalt not mess with the Dudleys because you couldn't use the F word. Yeah. And I just remember doing that and just rolling with it and taking off from there. And it just took off. And then I told him, I said, I still want to do the Mr. T. He was like, well, let's combine it into two. And that's what I was doing. So whenever I was in the ring, just like in Rocky 3, if you go back and watch it, the first fight with Sylvester Stallone, Mr. T is whooping his ass, but yet he's talking to him. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was great. You know, it's nothing worse than getting your ass beat when somebody's talking to you and talking you off, you know, trying to beat your ass, but then belittling you in the process of it. So that's when I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And that's why, if you notice, every time I was in the ring, like, get your ass up, boy.
Man, I was just thinking that, like, yo, okay, that makes sense, because you should definitely talk shit.
I talk shit as they were down. Get up.
Right.
You know, get your ass up. And I remember Farouk going, you trying to steal my gimmick? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I do the same thing. Because Farouk I remember being in the ring and seeing Farouk many times. He would, get your ass up. Get up now. And he was literally kicking the shit out of him. You know, Ron Simmons did not play. When you look in a dictionary under the definition of a man, it's Ron Simmons in his face.
So my next question, now that you explained to us the A-Train name, how you first get the name Devon Dudley, I didn't know this. So when you were saying earlier, like, you know, a lot of people that watched WWF to WWE at the time didn't know about the Dudleys. They had to go back. I was one of those people. A lot of people didn't know that it was more than you and Bubba Ray. It was a whole family at ECW.
There was about 9 of us.
It was about 9 of y'all.
There was Dudley, Snot Dudley, Big Dick Dudley, Chubby Dudley, Sign Guy Dudley, Spike Dudley, Bubba Ray Dudley, Devon Dudley, and Dances with Dudleys.
Okay.
So there was a bunch of us, but Bubba and I were the only two that really clicked and really did it. And they were all of them were very good wrestlers, but him and I were the only two out of the 9 that made magic. Yeah. And that was able to go on and be successful with the gimmick. Because the Dudley Boyz weren't supposed to be a team that was sort of been taken seriously. We were taken as a joke because, like I said, when Bubba first started, he started stuttering. And then, you know, Big Dick would hit him in the back of the head and he would stop stuttering. And then I came along and I started hitting him in the back of the head. But the thing about it was the Dudley Boyz was perceived as a joke until I came in, and it was like Devon is trying to get rid of the dancing and the singing and all of that. And that's how, you know, I became a heel when I first came into to ECW, because I wanted to stop Bubba from singing and dancing. And the fans, you know, basically crapped all over me after trying to do that. So, and that was when me and Bubba started feuding against each other.
That's what I was just about to say. Before the Dudley Boyz were a team, it was a lot of matches that happened between you and Bubba. So is that where the chemistry? Because usually that's what I hear. Like, even in with my profession, battle rap, a lot of the greatest teams, like my greatest partner that I have in battle rap, we used to feud. So I think that's where the chemistry came, and we battled each other before we teamed up. So how was that chemistry working with him, going against him before you guys were a tag team?
Well, we were on the same page. We wanted to make the Dudley Boyz of a real group. In other words, a for real group where people took us seriously. So we went in there and totally beat the crap out of each other. I mean, we beat the shit. I mean, it was bad to the point where, you know, I would have neck pains. My chest would twitch by itself without me even trying to do it. The nerve damage that was going on. So it was one of those things where we didn't care. We gave our bodies to each other and we literally killed each other just so we can go in there and make the Dudley Boyz a household name.
And once you guys became a household name, run me through the process of how did Spike come from ECW into WWE? Because, like, what I love is, like you were saying earlier about Taker, like, longevity comes from the same character, but it being able to show so many variations of the character, because that's a human thing. In real life, you're not just set as one thing. So when that story, and that's why I love wrestling at that time, because the stories were so impactful and they were so good about telling it. So now, how does Spike Dudley come into the equation on WWE?
Well, he came in ECW. He was the last Dudley to come in.
Yeah.
And then when we left and the company folded, they shut down. There was talks about bringing in one of the other Dudleys. Spike was the only one that everybody felt would have been a perfect fit. And it was basically Paul Heyman, I think, that really gave the okay for Spike.
Okay.
So as we talk about the Dudleys, you know what I'm saying? Greatest tag team. Sorry, my opinion.
I agree.
Sorry, my opinion, not yours. Oh, it's your opinion. Oh, okay. So
Also, by the like statistically, by the numbers, the greatest tag team.
Yeah. So the 3D, how does that special maneuver come about? Because I think it's one of those maneuvers. It's not like fancy schmancy, right? But it is so precise and it gets the job done every single time. How does that special move come about?
We were in the ECW dojo, and Bubba said, now that we're a team, we need a finishing maneuver. Dallas Diamond Page was doing the cutter. And Bubba said, you know what? It's a great idea. Why don't we think about how do we make that a move where maybe you lift him and I'll bring him with the Bubba cutter. So I remember we tried it the first time, and the guy we tried it on at the dojo in ECW almost killed him. So we realized that you have to, once I pick you up, you have to stay straight. You have to stay tall with your head up. And as I'm coming backwards down with you, you still have to be in that position. And Bubba will guide you down. And if you watch the first one we ever did, the night Bubba turned in the ECW arena, we hit it on Spike and we nearly killed him because we forgot to tell him don't bend down. He bent down, he almost broke his neck.
Oh man, I was just about to ask you who took the most devastating.
Oh, listen,
3D.
without a doubt, Spike was our how do you say, our dummy. He basically, whenever we had a move, we were thinking about Spike. He would go, it got to the point where Spike would go and hide sometimes because he knew what was coming up. The one time we were looking for Spike, I'll never forget it. We were in the ECW arena, and we had something to go over. Excuse me. And I remember Bubba goes, have you seen Spike? I said, no. He goes, well, we're up next, so we need to know Spike. We need to find him out now. So I was like, all right. So I'm looking for him. Bubba goes, he's probably upstairs. Let me go find him. So Bubba goes upstairs, and he goes into the bathroom. And he says, Spike, are you in here? No answer. And all of a sudden, he goes into the bathroom. As he goes into the bathroom, he looks down. He goes, Spike, are you in here? No answer. All of a sudden, we hear, and there's smoke coming out of the stall. Bubba opens it up. He goes, Spike. He goes, you son of a bitch. That's how you've been able to take all those beatings. You get high before you got in the ring. And that's where the whole LSD came in.
Oh, okay.
That's where the whole LSD came in with Spike.
Oh, okay, that's fire.
All right, we're back. We had to cut out a question that Devon really didn't like, and DNA had to take it. Had to take the force.
Now
from
what
it, but-
really happened is it's hot as hell in there. And I'm the only one with the ECW hockey jersey on, so I had to take it off and I had to use the bathroom. We had to reset to cool down.
Yeah, to recalibrate.
Flex don't like
get
that.
right.
Flex-
No, because I remember a couple episodes. You know what I'm saying? It was a problem for me to use the bathroom. But
No, if I can
It was.
point out though, that was like 4 bathroom breaks back to back.
Yeah,
This
it
was
was.
one vital
it was
one.
4 bathroom breaks. You were counting?
Kept
How-
drinking
I wasn't
Tiger Bowl.
counting.
So you were
but
counting how many
I
times
wasn't
I
counting,
was
but it
using
was a
the
fair
restroom?
amount. It was a fair
Okay,
amount.
anyway, let's not waste any time because we have a legend here.
That's
so my-
true.
Devon.
My-
So, I'm sorry. I just had to ask this
Okay,
question.
Flex.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, he available.
So,
He's
so,
here.
so, I don't mean to go back here, but I just curious. So, you got children aside from the twin boys, right? You got any other kids?
Yeah, I got 6 altogether.
You got 6 altogether.
Yep, I got the twins at 27.
Mm-hmm.
I have my other son. The twins are boys. I have my son Matthew. He's 21. I have my my 4th son Preston. He is 14.
Salute.
And I have my 2 daughters, 3 and 2.
2 daughters, 3 and 2. Oh, you lucky.
Your older
3 and
twins,
2.
by
I
the
was
way.
just about to ask you, right? Okay, so
Your
God-
eldest fight under Dudley, correct?
I'm sorry.
Your eldest, I believe the wrestlers they use the stage name Dudley as well.
TNT.
yeah.
TNT. Yeah.
Awesome.
Terrence and Terrell Dudley.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shouts to them, right? Cool. Now, God bless, right? So I want to
That's
know,
his
as
name
you
in
put
his
in
mode.
these women through the table, right? You're at work, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You get any phone calls from like, whether it's Mama Love, Auntie Dearest, Grandma, cousin, so and so, any females that you love in your family, in your life, that called you, be like, Devon, what you doing?
No,
Nah?
never got any of it.
Never?
No. The only phone calls I ever got when I was doing the Reverend Devon gimmick.
Okay.
And my father called and told me, he says, when you're done hooping and hollering in the ring, make sure you go where it really counts in the pool pit when it's over. Because they all thought I was going to follow in my father's footsteps and become a preacher. And I became an ordained reverend 2 years ago. So I became
bless,
that.
God bless.
Thank you. And so with that being said, it was like I waited until after my career was over to follow in my father's footsteps.
Right. Okay, awesome.
That's the next question I was going to get to. How was it for you guys when the brand split up and you went to SmackDown and you had to get Batista over when you were doing the Deacon?
Well,
Did you enjoy that time of like?
You know what? I did enjoy it, and I didn't, because when it happened, Bubba and I were very upset because at that time we didn't feel that the Dudleys had broken up at that point. We felt that there was more to do, and I ain't gonna lie, I was scared to death, and so was he, because of the fact you're in a big pond, you're medium-sized fish, you know, and it was like, okay, what do we do now? We've been in a tag team for so long, it's gonna be hard to try to do a singles. And so with that being said, we basically just decided, okay, well, we're going to do what we got to do. Vince wanted to, the whole Reverend Devon gimmick was a whatchamacallit, it was a spoof off of the Catholic Church. Because that was when all of the allegations came out with the priest and all of that. So he was using me as a scapegoat to get on them because they were coming to the shows protesting. And so it was like, that's why we had right to censor and all of that.
That makes sense.
I gotta say also, Devon, the Dudley Boys in general, they're really known for a good original style, a crazy one that you could see a lot of people mimic today.
Yes.
But something about your specific Devon style that I always liked, and I want to know where it came from. You have a specific style of selling when you fall and you kind of.
Shake it.
Did that come from somewhere? Was that somewhere you noticed, kind of just naturally?
Yeah, it came from Roddy Piper.
Oh, okay.
If you ever go back and watch the late great Roddy Piper, he would do that. He would basically go out there, and his leg was shaking the whole nine. And so what I did was I took it from the leg shaking the way he did it, but I made it more of that era, like today's wrestling. You know, I incorporated it until, you know, like for instance, he did it in the 80s, so I made sure that when the 90s and the new millennium came in, I did it for that time. So I just took from him and made it mine.
Oh, okay. That was such a scary answer that actually ran DNA out of the ring.
Right.
Well, I've got. It's actually a two-part, but this is one of those questions up there with what were you looking for under the ring? So, you know, ECW, obviously, you guys are known as a very extreme team. Is there any match? Like, did you have people that got too rough in the ring that it might have turned into like a real fight or something, or came close?
The Public Enemy was one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Public Enemy had run-ins with everybody, but we did some business with them. We hit them with 3D, and when we hit them with 3D, they popped up. And
So they no-sold.
Yeah, they kind of no-sold it. So, but they waited till after we got in the back, and then they got on the mic and they started, you know, cutting a promo. And I remember Bubba stopping, and Paul Heyman came up to us and was like, you know, good match. And we were like, wait a minute, is Johnny Grunge on the mic talking? And I was like, yeah, I think he is. He was like, Devon, let's go. So we went back out there and commenced to beating the shit out of him. And I remember Bubba going, stay the hell down, stay down. Don't get back up. And I had a lot of respect for Rocco Rock. I didn't know Grunge that well, but Rocco Rock I had a lot of respect for because I met him when I was training at Johnny Rogers School. So I kind of knew him, and Johnny liked him. So I felt bad having to hit Rocco Rock. And so we hit him again. We started walking out of the ring, and they got up again.
Oh,
And
wow.
At this point, me and Bubba went and got chairs. And
Like,
that
y'all
was
gonna
it.
really stay down.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Well, so kind of part two, you brought up Public Enemy. So this isn't really Dudley Boys connected, but it's something that I got to ask about, or else when we leave, I'll be like, damn, I didn't ask about that. So the mass transit incident is probably one of the most controversial incidents in wrestling. Mass Transit's partner, Mass Transit, people who don't know, an untrained kid basically lied, said he was trained, got in the ring with Public Enemy, which is...
Got in the ring with
the gangsters. He got in the ring with the gangsters, correct. And they basically push you to the side, and then the incident happens.
Well,
What was your mindset there? Well,
Eric came in and he pretty much said what he wanted to do in the match. And when you're a young kid in the locker room, you don't open your mouth. You get told what to do and you do it until you earn your stripes, and being able to say what you want to do. And he kept saying it, and it pissed New Jack off. And the kid got up, and he walked out, and New Jack said, Devon, when we come in the ring, we're going to hit hot like we normally do, and I want you to go outside with Mustafa and stay there. Do not come back in.
So they warned you, man.
They warned me. So I was, it wasn't so much Mustafa, it was New Jack. So I basically, I'm a young punk kid, don't know anything. So I'm like, okay, I'll stay outside with Mustafa. And I remember Mustafa hit me, I went down. Mustafa gets back in the ring, and I see New Jack commencing to beating the hell out of this kid. And I went, oh boy. Next thing I know, he takes out the scalpel, goes on the top of the kid's head, and slices him from one side of the head to the other, where the skin was flapping. And the blood was spewing out his head. It was like a water fountain. And I remember seeing that, looking up at the ring, seeing that, and I went right back down to the cell. I wanted no
parts of that.
No part of that.
And so let me ask you this question, and I'm asking because, like, I've been tapped in with the Dudleys from WWF on. I've heard about y'all tenure in ECW, but haven't really been on it, right? So as you talk about that match, were those types of things going on? How often? And, like, what was the overall vibe? Like, that definitely sounds like a chaotic work environment.
Well,
but
I'm not going to say
ECW sounds
from
very
my
chaotic.
point of view, I know somebody can agree with me.
Everything
I'm sorry,
I've
I
heard.
loved it, but I'm just like, holy shit,
Yeah.
Well,
for better
I
lack of
mean,
words.
yes, it was chaotic, but we were a family.
Right.
We didn't hurt each other. We didn't try to kill each other, what have you. Were there incidents where we got into fights with each other? Absolutely. But at the same token, when the fight was over, no different than fighting your brother. Going and fighting your brother. Once you fought, that was it. You made up and you did business again. Right. So that's the way it was with us there. Unless you were an outsider coming in, then you were done. Then you were done.
Dudley Boyz, I believe they have a combined title, like 23, 24 titles
24 times.
over everything. And this man right here is only one of 5 people to be inducted in both the TNA and the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So that leads to my quick question. You guys used to come out and it would say from Dudleyville, and then it would say from New York. When did you guys leave Dudleyville?
That's a good question.
I think once we got the TNA, I think about 2 years in, that's when we wanted the world to know what we were representing. I was representing Brooklyn, and he was representing Queens, Long Island. And so it was kind of like once we left WWE, that's what we were doing.
And I really tried to get a picture literally before I hopped on the flight here in front of the Lost Battalion Hall where you made your debut as Devon Dudley so I could show you. Yeah. But now I'm just going to have to tell you that I saw it, and it was an awesome memory to have to see that and say that is where Devon made his debut.
To this day, I'm still apologizing to Little Guido and JT Smith because Paulie wanted me to go out there and hit him with a chair. And I told Paulie, I said, Paulie, I've never swung a chair before in my life. So I have no idea what I'm doing. Devon, don't worry about it. They'll be able to take it. I talked to them. You have to swing the chair. If you don't swing the chair appropriately, I won't be able to use you for the next 6 months to the year. So I went, shit, I got to feed my family. All right, sorry, guys.
That's how you know it was extreme, though. He said, hit him with a chair or you're not getting paid for 6 months.
That's wild.
It doesn't get more extreme.
Now, speaking of extreme moments and being wild, so, as we mentioned before, Dudley Boyz, you guys were a very big and vital impact to the Attitude Era. So outside of being a moment maker such as yourself and being part of some of the greater moments of that time, what I would say, let me ask you your top 3 oh shit moments.
Excellent
just
question.
being like a part of that scene, that work environment, and doing what you do and contributing to what you already contribute, just being able to witness all these other moments firsthand. What were like top 3 oh shit moments?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the ones was the mass transit. That was one. I also think it was the TLC match. You know, and I.
No, but I mean outside of you. I want to know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to know.
Just attitude era in
from
general.
because you're there. You know what I'm saying? You're there. You got to witness all of this shit.
a great
So I want to
question.
know outside of what you're a part of.
Okay, I'm gonna have to say The Rock in Austin
Okay.
at WrestleMania. Just the simple fact because, you know, once you get to a certain age, this wrestling business can be very, very brutal.
Right.
And Hogan was at that age, you know, and The Rock was the up and coming, you know, lying. And for them to gravitate to Hogan the way they did, that was incredible.
Right.
And I remember all of us in the back looking at the match at the monitor and just hearing the people chant for Hogan. It was like unreal. You've got 67,000 plus chanting Hogan, and they were booing The Rock. And that was one of the things that I thought I would have never seen. I could bet my house and paycheck that would have never happened, but it did. You know, that was one. And I think the other one was The Rock. This is the birthday.
Oh, this
This
is
is
your
your
life.
life.
Yeah.
And because me and Bubba were in Gorilla because we were the next match. They were only supposed to get, I believe, 15 minutes. And they wound up going 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Damn.
And, you know, you go 45 minutes over, and Vince ain't going to be happy. But to this day, from my understanding, it was the most watched segment ever in WWE history. And so Mick Foley and Rock got off easy on that one. But we were like, damn, because we got cut. And we had never got cut before. And, you know, and they were like, sorry, Dudleys, we don't have time. We got to move on to the next match after you guys. So we got to try to make up some time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think any. Damn. I didn't know that. Wow. That's dope.
Well, let me ask you something.
Wait, no.
connected.
He said two.
Okay, Flex is here.
I'm
Flex is
sorry,
here. He's
he said
available.
two. He has
He's
one
available.
more.
My bad, Flex. My
Let him
bad.
answer the
He be
question.
playing GameCube. It be making him kind of hostile, but
I'm gonna probably say the Austin Tyson. The Austin Tyson thing. I mean, you know, we've had people come in from the outside and, you know, storyline, but nothing was as impactful as that segment. And to this day, I hold that to be one of the best segments ever from a guy who came from the outside with as much hype as Tyson had at that time.
Absolutely.
And as big of a star as Austin was, to have these two in the ring doing that was incredible.
Absolutely.
I
That was damn near both of them in their prime.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
That was the moments for me.
Okay.
that's
Top it.
awesome. And with those moments, you know, so many of those great moments came in the Attitude Era, a day where the product really wasn't afraid to take risks and kind of push the boundaries. My last question for you, and then we'll get into my favorite part of the show. Do you think that the product or the writing or even the world, do you think just the world is too soft right now, too sensitive for the
Absolutely. You know, and I'll give you a prime example. When I heard that Eddie Murphy was going to go on Netflix and do a second coming of Raw, from his stand-up routine from the 80s, I was like, I don't know about that. Because the first one was extremely entertaining and extremely good. But the things that he said, you can't get away with nowadays.
Absolutely not.
And the thing about it was, it's comedy. It wasn't anything malicious. It wasn't making fun of anybody. It was comedy. Today, people can't handle that. And they don't look at it as being a joke, you know. And even what he said about gay people. I mean, again, back in the day, we were able to laugh at that. And it wasn't, you know, so bad. Now, you can't say that. You can't do that, you know. And I think that's when I realized society had just gotten to be too just soft. You can't say anything to anybody without anybody feeling insulted or feel like they're being disrespected.
Now,
And especially in the wrestling business because it's entertainment.
I was just
Right.
about to ask you, as you mentioned about the world being soft, do you feel like the product of today, and when I mean the product of today, I'm not talking about any company. I'm just saying the state of wrestling today. Do you feel like the wrestlers might have gotten soft, or it's just
Well, I think a lot of the wrestlers, it's not that they gotten soft, but you can't go back to the Attitude Era, especially in WWE because you have sponsors. It's a public traded company, and that's a lot of money to lose. So I get why Vince had to cut it off the way he did and did what he did. You got to understand, Vince is a very smart businessman.
Right.
He knows when to start it and when to pull it out. So You know, it's one of those things where we can't go back to those eras. Regardless of how much we want to, we can't. You know, just because of the way how soft society is, and sponsors and being a public traded company. You know, it's almost impossible.
Okay, so as you say that, you know, right, which is true, and that brought the world as we know, or the wrestling, or better yet, WWE, right, for a second, brought us to the PG era, right? PG era did what it did, you know, a lot of great stars coming out of that era, despite, you know, what some may be or believe to be, restrictions and whatnot. Now we're back to TV 14. So how do you feel the product is going to go from here, being, you know, TV 14 now?
Well, I'm interested to see him because, again, now we have a new vision with Triple H after Vince retiring. And, you know, I thank Vince McMahon so much because he gave me my start. He basically made me a household name in the business, and so did Paul Heyman. But Vince took it to another level. And so my thing is, with this new vision coming about with Triple H, I'm excited about that. Can we ever get back to the Attitude Era? Like I said, I don't think we can. Can we come close to it? We probably can. But, again, time is going to tell. We're going to have to sit back, relax, and wait to see how Hunter does it. I think Hunter's going to do a great job. I'm excited about it.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think he's
absolutely.
going to do an excellent job.
Shout outs to Hunter, Triple H. That's actually
Absolutely.
I think he did a phenomenal job with
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying anything bad, but I'm a Hunter guy.
No,
You know,
listen.
I'm a Hunter guy.
Triple H is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
And a little bit of me is a Vince guy too, because I love Vince and I thank him every day for what he's done for me. But in all honesty, I gravitate more to Triple H than I do Vince, and it's simply because of the new vision that I know that Hunter can bring. If you watch NXT, Go Black and Gold, see
man.
what he did with independent wrestlers, made them big stars, and brought them to the main roster. So, in my opinion, if he did that for Black and Gold, I can only imagine what he's going to do for the main roster. So I think we're all excited. I think the WWE universe is excited. I think even Vince McMahon at home is sitting and being excited.
Right.
I agree.
I think everybody's excited. So listen, kudos. Thank you, Vince, for everything that you did. Thank you very much, and thank you, Hunter, for what you're about.
Right.
I like that answer a lot.
And we just let me just throw some more flowers on, you know, because at the end of the day, Vince is a part of bringing about warmth and smiles to many faces. Many. And when you have that kind of impact in the world, you always got to salute it. You always got to be thankful. You always got to praise it, you know. So, again, thank you, Vince. And shout outs to Triple H. You know, we are all excited. We all excited here.
I'm very excited.
So let's get into your
Thank
favorite.
you, Vince. Hopefully don't have to edit that out in the future.
No.
But
Come on.
All right, let's
We kid. But anyway,
let's get into
Yes.
my favorite. That's the Attitude Era.
That is Attitude Era
favorite,
energy, yes.
favorite segment of the show, Devon. This is called the Kickout, and I gotta say, when this was conceptualized, I never thought we'd be able to play it with you. So this is gonna be awesome. Hold on, let me explain the rules to you real quick. While he's our official ref, while we do this.
Hey, boss, can you close that door for me?
Oh, please, availability.
He available. Let's get one for Devon, please.
Oh, thank you.
Here one.
It's hot in this dojo.
Yeah, it's so good.
Thank you
we
so much.
for allowing us to be here.
This is good. We're about to play a game. Let's get some water in before the game.
My man needs
Wow.
that ASAP. Look.
I've never seen people open, just everyone collectively.
Woo!
All right.
I feel revived. Where's my boy? He's good?
Oh, you want to come over here since your boy left? I think me trying to put him through a table. I think that hurt his feelings.
Yeah, definitely there.
All right. So the Kickout is a quick question game we like to play. We're going to give you 3 seconds to give us an answer. If you can give us an answer, you're going to get 1 point. If you can't, you get no points, and you'll have a final score. This is a combination of Dudley trivia, Attitude Era trivia, and then some opinion-based. Okay. So when the bell rings, we'll start, and when the bell rings, it's over. Let's play the Kickout. The Kickout is going to begin in 3, 2, 1. First question, Devon. Who are the original founding members of the Dudley family?
Dudley, Big Dick Dudley.
Awesome. That's correct, by the way. Second question: how many total tag team championships in the WWE did the Dudley Boys hold?
I'm gonna say 9. No, 9.
Awesome. I think that's wrong.
He's
But
getting them near finish.
yeah,
Well,
the near
hold on.
finisher kick out.
Yeah, the barely kick out. No, but I think I'm right because there was a big thing with the New Day of them surpassing us when they got to 10. So we were supposed to go over it in Madison Square Garden, but we didn't. Plans got changed, and the New Day kept the title. So we never got that 10th one.
So we're giving you that. We're giving him the
Yeah.
point for that.
Yeah.
We're giving him the point. Third question: who was the Duchess of Dudleyville?
Oh, my girl, Stacy Keebler.
Yeah, you guys put her through a table. Pretty
Oh, yeah,
easily.
we did. I felt sad for that. Listen, she had the greatest legs in the business.
Yes.
Oh, God, it was great.
Yes. I actually don't know the answer to this one, so you'll inform me. But question 4: what show, Raw or SmackDown, did the Dudley Boys debut on first in WWE?
SmackDown.
SmackDown. It's sometimes you think you know, but then you're like,
Listen,
you
we
never
had a
know.
whole
They're so
episode-
decorated. Oh no, he's getting in flex mode
We
now.
had
He's
a
getting-
whole
he's
episode
getting
about
in
Raw
flex.
vs. SmackDown, and y'all tried to crucify me about SmackDown, but you didn't know the answer to that question
You still-
was SmackDown.
You still play GameCube, though.
Way to the game.
He still plays Day of Reckoning.
To the game. To the game.
Next question, Devon. What team did the Dudley Boys return to attack in 2015?
The New Day.
Correct. So now we're getting into some Attitude Era trivia. Where was Raw's first show ever?
The Manhattan Center, New York.
Correct. Which wrestler came up with Mr. Sacco?
Belly kick out, Mick Foley.
Actually, it was Al Snow in Creative who I gave him the...
I thought Al Snow had the head.
But he invented Mr. Sacco.
Oh, he
For-
invented. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Who was the hardcore champion when the 24/7 rule was introduced?
It wasn't Bob Holly. It had to be Crash Holly. I was
Crash
say.
Holly. Just the ring kick out. He's still going to win no matter what.
Right.
But what was the first ever main event to the first episode of SmackDown?
Yeah, I'm pinned on that one.
That's The Rock and Stone Cold versus the Corporate Ministry, which is
Was it
Triple
really?
H and Undertaker. First ever main event.
I was in ECW at the time, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We actually just had the what's it called when it happens every year anniversary of this. But what pay-per-view did Sable wear the handprint bikini at?
what pay-per-view?
Yeah,
Was it In Your House?
fully loaded.
Fully Loaded.
Fully loaded.
Damn.
98. Now these are opinion based, so we'll go through them pretty quick. Devon, Raw or SmackDown?
Raw.
Stone Cold or The Rock?
Rock.
He got that. He got best tag team today.
The Usos.
The next big superstar, someone who may not have seen that push, but you know he's going to be great. Or her.
I think Martez from the Street Profits.
I couldn't agree with you
I
more.
love him. I think he's very charismatic. I think he's got what it takes to go out there and do it. I think there's going to be a lot of talk about him, and I hope his partner Dawkins can follow suit. He's very, very entertaining, and he's definitely got the it factor.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Next question. First blood or casket match? Which do you prefer?
First blood, I'm claustrophobic. I can't take caskets. I'll bleed in a heartbeat.
Excluding the Dudley Boys, which is the obvious answer, what's the best tag team of all time?
LOD, the Road Warriors.
Tables, ladders, or chairs? If you could only use one, which is it?
Tables.
Of course. Hell in a Cell or the Steel Cage? Which do you prefer?
Steel Cage.
You can only watch one wrestling pay-per-view for the rest of your life. Which is it going to be?
WrestleMania.
There's a good one. Chair shots or going through a table? What hurts more?
I'm going to say chair
Which do you
shots.
prefer, the classic IC belt or the classic European Championship belt?
Classic IC belt.
A dream match that you never got to have?
The Road Warriors.
Your personal favorite match?
TLC, WrestleMania 17.
And for the last question, this will be last man standing, Sal. You get 10 seconds. I need your wrestling Mount Rushmore. Why don't we do a regular one, 10 seconds each, and then a tag team Mount Rushmore? Only four spots on each. Let's do it regular, then tag.
The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bruno Sammartino,
Oh, amazing.
and Hulk Hogan.
Awesome. And now why don't we do a Mount Rushmore for tag teams? And you can put the Dudley Boys up there because they have to be.
The Dudley Boys,
Of course.
LOD, the Rock and Roll Express,
Ooh.
and Terry Gordy and Doc. Dr. Death Steve Williams.
That is awesome. And that was the kick out. Devon, we want to thank you on behalf of the Attitude Era
Super
podcast.
fire.
That was probably the best one we had so far.
It has to be the
It has
best
to
one.
be. We want to thank you on behalf of the Attitude Era podcast for doing this. We want to
Yes,
thank
thank
our
you, thank you.
sponsors, Flip a Bag, Wrestling Universe, Mr. Throwback, High Def behind the camera, got us looking so lovely.
We got to also say thank you to DNA for allowing
yes, he'll
Brother
be
Devon to put him through a table.
Yes.
You know,
He'll
he
be
had
back
to-
from the recovery in the bonus episode.
Yeah, I knew I should have had him sign that waiver. Damn.
Yeah, but it's
Oh,
all good.
yeah, no, it's over now.
Attitude Era, you know.
This is now the Attitude Era Wrestling School. Make sure you guys tune into the Patreon. We've got amazing bonus episodes, including one with Devon. By this time, we'll have one with Jazz, Real Sick Jerry West, a whole bunch of other amazing people. So make sure you guys tune in there. Subscribe, share. Attitude Era Podcast. I'm going to go check on DNA.
Oh, can you officialize it, please? Can you bow us out?
Oh, testify.
That was fire.